You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans. Tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Also, call us and leave a message to be played on air at 408-909-PJFF. Follow us on Twitter at PillageJustForFun. That's at PillageJust4Fun. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler, joined every week by my co-host, Raider Kane. It's time to pillage another podcast. So what's good, Kane? What have you been up to?
Man, I've been soaking wet, man. It's been raining out here in California for like 40 days, man. God must have come back or something, man. It's too wet out here. I'm about to float away, bro.
We got a good one coming up for you. We got Jason Cole on the air this week. He's going to answer some of our questions, some of your questions. I'm pretty excited about that. Anything you want to talk about before we get into that, Kane?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Boss Man for viewing up the interview with us and Jason Cole. I appreciate that, bro. Much love, and that's about it, man, this week. Not much going on in the news.
For sure. Big ups, Boss Man. Shout out. Well, cool. Well, we're going to move into that segment, and we'll catch you guys on the other side with our reactions and hear some of your phone calls. So stay tuned and enjoy the interview. Thanks for joining us, Jason. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. What's going on, guys?
Not much. Just, busy off season for the Raiders already. The NFL never really sleeps. You got the upcoming free agency circuits and, of course, the ever-looming stadium deal going down, Vegas, San Diego, Oakland, wherever it may land. A quick question for you coming out of the gate. With free agency looming, do you think Latavious Murray will return? Or if not, who fills that role in his absence?
I think that more than likely he returns because I expect the market for running backs is going to be a little bit soft this year, as it has been most years. Le'Veon Bell is going to be taken off the market with a franchise tag if he doesn't get a long-term deal done in advance. And I think that what we've seen in recent years is that most running backs get somewhere between $5 and $6 million a year, maybe a little bit more. The one big exception to that was DeMarco Murray, 2 years ago. Got the big contract out of Philadelphia. But the reason for that was that their whole plan in Philadelphia when Chip Kelly was there was to get Gore and to be sort of this tougher running team. When they didn't get Frank Gore, he fell back on, okay, I'm going to go get DeMarco Murray, and he overbid the Cowboys to get DeMarco Murray and sort of cause a bigger contract than normal. I don't expect that to happen with Latavious. I expect them to hold the line. But if it gets much past $5 or $6 million a year, yeah, they could cut bait and go get somebody in the draft to replace him. Running backs are relatively easy to find.
Right. I mean, it seems like every few years the running back market gets a little bit bullish and then it dies down again. It looks like we're on a downward trend again because of the reasons you just mentioned. I wanted to welcome again. I don't know if you've met Kane, but Kane's the co-host on the show and he's here with us today. And I know he's got a question for you. So take it away, Kane. Go for it.
Thanks again for coming on, Jason.
No problem.
All right. My question for you is I've been critical of Jack Del Rio's contract extension coming so soon, and really he, in my opinion, hasn't really proven anything. What's your opinion on his contract extension coming so soon?
Well, I think that, look, for the last, 15 years now, the Raiders have been in a lot of coaching chaos. And I understand that people can be critical of Jack Del Rio and some of the moves that he's made, and especially the way things came apart after Derek Carr got hurt at the end of last year and they weren't able to pull out a game to try and keep home field advantage in the playoffs to at least get them through a game. I get all of that. But I think that it's really important at some point in time to get stability going within the organization and to stop being on that train of losing coach year after year, every 2 or 3 years. And especially when you have a young team with a nucleus of people like Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, young stars, I think it's really important to have stability there with your coaching staff. So while I understand people would be critical of it, while I understand that nobody's ever going to say that Jack Del Rio is the equal of Bill Belichick, you really want to continue on the path that you were on the previous 15 years. And anybody who says, well, yeah, but I hate Jack Del Rio so much that I don't want to have him back, those people are just being foolish. They're really not thinking through the situation. There needs to be stability within the organization.
Great. One of our callers, Rick, has a question for you.
Hi, fellas. This is Rick the Stick calling from Canada, and my question is to Jason. In your heart, where do you really think the Raiders are going to end up? In Vegas, Oakland, or in San Francisco? And that's all I have. Thanks a lot.
Well, where's Tim from, by the way? Where is he going?
Rick is actually from Canada.
Well, I think that he could probably plop down some money for the Saskatchewan Raiders. I think that's a good a bet as any. Or Calgary. Maybe they'll be in Calgary, Manitoba, Nova Scotia. Who knows where the Raiders are going to end up? Like the difficulty of the situation is that I still think Las Vegas has a fair amount of momentum going because they have $750 million on the table. But obviously, Sheldon Adelson not being on board, Goldman Sachs falling through as the backup financer of this program, that throws the whole thing into peril. I get all that. So it's tenuous at best in Las Vegas. Oakland, of course, is the fallback position immediately, but there's no answer in Oakland. There's no, the Raiders are not working with Fortress Investment Group. And I think that more than anything, the government in Oakland, the city government in Oakland, has basically said, we're washing our hands of the Raiders. If they stay, fine, but it'll be their own deal, and we'll do a land deal. But we'll hitch our wagon to the A's because they have 80 dates instead of just 10. We'll, build up the Howard Terminal site for a baseball stadium for the Oakland A's, and hopefully get control of the property where the Coliseum is, and turn that into commercial and residential property or whatever they're going to do with that site. I think that that's the grand plan for the city. So until they find either some kind of solution in the city or someplace like Pleasanton or Dublin or Concord or wherever it's going to be, the Raiders are always going to be in flux. And that's why I don't think San Diego is a likely option, because I don't think the NFL is going to allow anybody to go into San Diego anytime soon, not until the Los Angeles teams have proven themselves. San Antonio is difficult. I think the Raiders are going to be in a very, very problematic situation if Las Vegas falls through. And I have my gut feeling is that it's probably going to fall through.
Okay. Well, I guess, we'll just wait until more news comes out there. Like you said, it seems like it's always changing. I know Kane has a couple more really quick questions for you, but before he comes back on, we have one more actually follow-up question to the stadium issue. And this one comes from one of our callers as well. This comes from JFB out in Albuquerque. And he has a question for you.
Yeah, good evening, Pillaging, just for fun, fine folk. This is your buddy JFB out in Albuquerque. Want to send a congratulations to Kenny and the crew, running the blog and the podcast, getting credentialed national NFL writer Jason Cole on the podcast. One heck of a get. So good job, fellas. My question to you, Mr. Cole, is a comment followed by a question. And with the prior to the NFL relocation to LA this past year, the 5 previous NFL relocations involved a team moving from, at the time, a larger market to a smaller NFL market, beginning with the Colts going from Baltimore to Indianapolis, culminating in the Titans-Oilers move from Houston to Nashville. So the question to you, sir, is, what do you think is the biggest influential point to the other NFL voting owners? The sheer size of the market, which Oakland Bay Area is obviously a vastly superior market to Las Vegas, or kind of the theory that high tide raises all boats as far as getting the Raiders a stadium solution? In theory, this billion-dollar palace in Las Vegas, does that raise the value of all the franchises to a point to where that kind of more or less overcomes the lack of the media market size? So what is the biggest influential point in your opinion? Market size or just getting a new stadium? I appreciate your time. Best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Well, I don't think it's as simple as those two, although those are two very intelligent looks at the situation, okay? But I think there are a series of probably 20 to 25 factors that come into play as you measure the two. And the preference is, in the NFL, for the Raiders to stay in the Oakland market because it is a staggeringly better market in terms of money, in terms of support for the team, in terms of history and consistency. The preference by the NFL would be for the team to stay in Oakland. But, again, we've just been through it. there's no solution here. There is no there is nothing that points to a stadium being done yet. So as long as that's not done yet, that's why Vegas remains open. And the idea of getting so much public money, the $750 million, being in an entertainment-related city where you could have people coming in for 3 and 4 day weekends, for whether they're the visitor or whether the home spectators, becomes really, really enticing. And the bottom line is, the Raiders are one of the greatest brands in the NFL. They've survived, lots of losing seasons with tremendous fan support. They're probably the problem with that is that they haven't been marketed well enough, and you can blame that on Mark Davis and Al Davis, as a matter of fact. But they haven't been marketed well enough, and the team is not worth what it should be worth. It should be a team that's worth $3 billion plus. And the question is, can the NFL get that team to being worth $3 billion in Las Vegas, or can they somehow find a way to do that in Oakland? Because that's what they want to have happen, because that raises the value of all of the franchises if the Raiders are worth that much.
Great, man. Before I get out of the way, I just, again, wanted to thank you for coming on. Really a pleasure talking to you.
Sure.
Big fan of your work. Kane's got a couple more questions for you, and go for it, brother.
So, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. And I'm a season ticket holder, and I've been a season ticket holder since 1996. And this is the second season in a row that the Raiders have chosen to play a home game in Mexico City. And it's also against the New England Patriots. Now, me as a season ticket holder, I feel like that's a swift kick up our butt. And I just kind of want to get your thoughts.
You got to go Mexico City, Kane. Come on, man. You got to make the trip. Viva Mexico, baby. Come on. What do you got
I hear Mexico is not a place.
City. What's wrong there, man?
I hear Mexico City is not a place that I want to go visit. I don't know about that.
Are you down? I mean, why you down on Mexico City like that, Kane? What's wrong?
Hey, man, listen. It's taking a home game away from us.
It's a cool place.
I can go there. In August is probably the best place to go visit in the world, but not in September, October, November, and December. Not when it's at the expense of a home game for the Raiders.
Kane, I understand what you're saying, and I get it, and I hear you. But there are bigger issues in play here, and that is the marketing of a team and the marketing of a league internationally. And Mark Davis is doing this partly to market his own brand, something that the Raiders have not done very effectively for decades. And that's not just Mark's fault, but that is Al's fault too. They didn't market the team the way it should have been marketed. And I think it's also a way of trying to curry favor with the NFL and the rest of the NFL owners. Now, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. I think ultimately they're going to vote on whatever they think is the best project, or wherever they can make the most money. But obviously, Mark is trying to make friends and influence people within the league that he has to work with. So giving up that home game is his way of doing that. Is it to your detriment as a season ticket holder? Absolutely. Are you going to have to live with it? Sadly, yes. Because while this is entertainment and it's your team and it's your passion, it's also business, and that's just how it works. So get those tickets for going to Mexico City. Get them.
Hey, you got time for one more question?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Raiders got the number 24 pick in the draft this year. And there was a rumor that Reggie McKenzie may trade out of the first round. What are your thoughts on that? And if they do stick with 24, who do you think they go with? I believe they need to take an inside linebacker or maybe a safety. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say, look, I'm not a draft Nick. Okay, I'm just going to start catching up to that in the next couple of weeks. So if you're looking for Mel Kiper, you got the wrong guy.
He has nice hair. He has really nice hair.
He has luscious hair. That's some luscious hair. But look, there's always with any draft, the question is, where's the value in that draft? Is the value in that draft between 35 and 50? Is the value between 20 and 35? After you get past the blue chippers, the 3 or 4 guys who might be at the really high end of the draft, and then the next 10 or 12 guys in any typical draft who make up the surefire, the closest thing to a surefire guy that you get in the top 15. What does the draft look like after that? So if you don't think that there's much difference between 24 and 38, then you ought to move down. And I would trust Reggie to do that. If you're sticking at 24, look, that team needs help on defense. I'm not a big fan of taking safeties and linebackers in the first round. That's just my take on it. I would probably be taking a corner, especially this year, because the corners in this draft are incredibly deep. And look, you need to have 3 of them. You probably need to have 4 of them. I mean, look at how Denver built its defense with 3 corners, and those are commodities to get. Or find a pass rusher. You always need guys on the defensive line who can get to the quarterback. Those would be my priorities, either on the back end or the front end of your defense. Linebacker and safety, nice, but I can find those guys in the second, third round. Unless a guy's going to be Cam Chancellor or Earl Thomas. And even in Cam Chancellor's case, that was a guy with a 4th-round pick. So the draft is all about value. If you can find somebody to trade out, I would say this, though. One of the players who's probably going to be at 24 all the way through maybe the early part of the second round, who's a fascinating player to me. And running backs, again, aren't the highest priority in the world. But Dalvin Cook could be there, or my man from Stanford University, Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey is the closest thing I have seen to Reggie Bush since Reggie Bush came out 10 years ago. And he's got that kind of explosiveness and big playability, and he may actually be a better inside runner than Reggie ever was. I think he's going to be there, and that would be tempting at 24 to 30, 32. If he's in that area, I think you got to think about it.
That's your biased Cardinal opinion, huh?
Well, yeah, but he ran all over the East Bay University. Let's just put it that way. Because we over in the peninsula own the decade against the University of California. Just remember that you said
shots fired.
Okay. No. It's not shots fired. It's only because they're only going one direction. Because they're really only firing anything right. Okay, let's put it that way.
Look out, Mel Kiper. Look out, Mel Kiper. It's coming for that spot. Well, man, this has been great. Again, it's been great having you on, and maybe we'll look out and talk to you again in the future. Kane, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I just want to say again, thanks for coming on, man, and we hope we can get you on again during the season.
Anytime. I appreciate it, guys. Good luck and enjoy it.
Take care, man.
I take care.
You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans, featuring fan-submitted articles and the most lively Raider Nation conversation on the internet. Follow us on Twitter @PillageJustForFun. That's @PillageJust4Fun. Also, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio.
What up, homies? It's Plunk. Don't have anything earth-shattering to discuss, but just want to go down on record that I would prefer that we kept Murray. I think he's, the guy's learned how to pass pro. He's a beast. He's a big man. I would like us to, I would think he's worth $5 million. So put me down in the Murray camp. Go Raiders.
All right, and we're back. So he had some interesting things to say there about all of those topics. I really want to just point out a couple things. One thing in particular, it was his Latavious Murray answer. I have a feeling that Murray doesn't come back. I got this gut feeling that he's going to be one of the surprise names that goes. And it's not because they don't want him. I do feel like the market for running backs does even out a little bit this year, but I also have this feeling about what Reggie's willing to pay, and like the number that's in his head is probably a lot lower than what he's going to get offered. I don't think Murray's going to be offered some exorbitant amount, but I think that McKenzie's going to pay him on a budget. He has to, because his hands are full with other contracts coming up. So I just feel like we're going to come in a little too low for Murray. This was a contract year for him, probably his last chance to get paid. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get something. It's not going to be elite money, but it's going to be at least the top of that mid-tier or the bottom of a top-tier type contract, something sort of medium high, if that makes sense. So I could see Murray actually kind of being somewhat of a cap casualty here, just because I think there's going to be teams that are interested. So you had a reaction to what he had said. You had a really good question about the Mexico City game that's coming up, the second one in 2 years. So what was your reaction to that, to what he had to say about that?
Well, basically he said it was a business move by Mark with the owners to try to basically get into the owners' laps, so that maybe they will allow him to make the move to Las Vegas or wherever else he might want to go. And my thing, and I just want to, my rebut to that, or what I want to say is that ties into whether they go to Las Vegas, and funding and money and all this stuff. Because if the Oakland City Council and Oakland and they come together with a stadium plan, a viable plan, the NFL is going to make Mark Davis stay in Oakland no matter what. And right now, neither Vegas nor Oakland has a plan to get the Raiders. So my point is him trying to get in all the owners' laps and going off to, Mexico City, taking games away, when really there is no reason. If Oakland comes with a plan, you're stuck here, buddy. There's nothing basically he can do about it. So instead of trying to get in the owners' laps, why don't he go out and find some funding in the city of Oakland or surrounding areas to help them get a stadium built here in Oakland, instead of wasting time trying to get in the owner's lap so they can vote you to go to Vegas, where you don't even have the other $650 million for the funding yourself.
Yeah, I feel like, great. He's going to take the game. He's going to try to be some sort of an ambassador to the other owners and show his good faith in the league and wanting to promote the league. I get all that, and I'm sure that's a big part of it, and I'm sure he sees that, and I know the money is another big part of it. But and maybe this is just my layman's take, my street person's take on this, but I would see the other owners looking at him going like, yeah, go ahead. Take that game. Like, nobody really wants that game, Mark. Like, go ahead and take that game. So in my opinion, if Mark's doing it to be honorable and to put his foot forward, I kind of feel like the rest of the league's just looking at him like a fool. But on the other side of that coin, the other team on that field is going to be the New England Patriots, and Robert Kraft certainly is no fool. And if anybody can get out of doing a game like this, it's certainly him. So I don't know. Maybe my take is moot on it. That's just like I said, a gut feeling take. But yeah, I agree. And it just sucks to lose another home game this year. I'm not even a season ticket holder, and that hurts me. And I know you are. So that just goes to show how deep that runs. But anyways, yeah, another great show this week. Shout out to everybody on the blog. I haven't been on there too much, but I know you guys are holding it down, and you're what makes this community special. Again, we said earlier, Kane pointed it out, a big thank you to Boss Man out there, doing a lot of work on Twitter and definitely doing a lot of work getting this set up. We're going to have you back on again soon. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Kane?
Enjoy the rain. We'll appreciate this summer when it gets here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hope cars out there practicing too in this rain. Maybe you should get some people in red coats around them, get over the KC myth, the KC curse, as it were. Well, cool, man. Another great show. Once again, you're listening to the Pillaging Podcast. You can catch us every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher Radio. Don't forget to call the show every week, 408-909-PJFF. You can call that number whenever you feel like it. Lastly, I'm Kenny Stapler.
I'm Raider Kane.
That's it right there. And we out here. Go Raiders.
Raiders.